Hello, I am Avery or Hazel or Kylie. You can just pick one, I don't care.
Hello, I am Lily.
And it was foretold that we would cover this movie.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, huh? 'Twas foretold you would be doubting.
The fuck you mean, yaha?
uh, but anyway, welcome to the From the Closet podcast. Today, for our free movie of the month, I'll get back to that in a second. We are covering Legend of the Guardians, The Owls of Ga'Hoole. Which is currently free on YouTube. YouTube movies. Um, if you obviously this podcast will contain spoilers for said movie, which if you would like to avoid those, you will find a link in the description below to the Just Watch page for this movie, which itself will have links to every place you can rent, purchase, or stream this movie with price comparisons for renting and purchasing. But like we said, right now it's currently free on YouTube here in the US. Uh, Just Watch doesn't typically show
I am
accurately when a movie is free on YouTube, so just be aware of that.
I was very disappointed when I woke up today. The Dolphin Tale not being free, and this movie was decided while I was asleep. So I did like it. But I'm still just like, the hell are you making me watch, Avery?
I'm making you watch a movie I watched in theaters back in 2010.
Fucking owls looking ass.
I mean, I kind of was expecting you to like this movie just because owls.
I mean, I will be honest, I do like the aesthetic theme, the flying and everything. I mean, I do, every time, love flying in movies.
Yeah.
The realisticness was a little bit off-putting, but, I still did it.
Yeah, but anyway, also in the description, you'll find a link to our Patreon where you can vote on future episodes of this show, as well as being able to get access to episodes before they release, and early access to episodes of our sister show, Off the Shelf, which is about books. And also, that podcast is exclusive to YouTube and Patreon. Also, in the description, you will find a link to Anchor.fm, which is now Spotify for podcasters, which itself has links to every platform that this podcast is on, as well as links to our Instagram and Twitter, where you can be notified when we release new episodes.
Oh my god, the Twitter bird's actually an owl?
I wish. Uh, but yeah, so on what I was referencing earlier, though, we are going to be changing the name of Free Movie of the Month, just because um, it
I finally won.
it's not that you finally won, but to be fair, it has been a problem at least twice now, and it was almost a problem last month. Like
Yeah.
that.
Especially, with the long names of the month can also be problematic as
Yeah.
well.
So like we had a problem with character limits on episode titles for a while, especially on YouTube. We're going to be going through and changing the episode titles on Spotify to be much more streamlined and like not include From the Closet in every single episode. But on YouTube, we need to have From the Closet in the title of the video because it just makes more sense.
Yeah.
But like, when Sinbad Legend of the Seven Seas, we were barely able to make that fit. And then
Yeah, wasn't that released in I'm sorry, I tried to fit February and September in the same month, and I just... But yeah, wasn't that, February?
it was sometime early 2022.
Yeah.
I'm not certain it was February, but it could have been. And then there was The Perks of Being a Wallflower, which almost broke the character limit. It didn't quite, but it almost did. And this movie absolutely does. Like, I did figure out a way to make it fit, but it's probably better that we just change the name. So we are no longer going to be calling this slot Free Movie of the Month. We are now going to call it Free Film Day.
Yeah, it doesn't roll off the tongue, but neither did the first one, so,
I don't know. I think Free Film Day rolls off the tongue a lot better than Free Movie of the Month.
Oh, yeah. I was like, when you sent me that, I was like, well, I don't know how these combinations of words work well together, but definitely better than the old one, so yeah.
I mean, I want to somehow get across in the name that we're covering a free movie.
This is a free
Yeah,
movie.
like,
and it is today.
Yeah. And that it doesn't necessarily have to get across in the name that we do this every single month, just because the other part of the title, which includes the date, will do that just fine.
And the unimportant part about this, but I'm still going to say it, we're also shortening the months because I don't even know why we never thought about this before. It just made sense.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, going through and editing the Spotify titles is going to take a lot of work. I have an idea for how I want them to look, but yeah. Well, I will get to that eventually when I get to it. Which might actually be Monday, but even then I might not do all of them on Monday.
Goddamn, I'm
regardless,
movie references.
Sorry, what?
I'm confusing, like, the crew's like, in a minute! And I think it was Incredibles, like, we get there when we get there.
Yeah. But regardless, please get out of here if you would like to avoid spoilers, because we are going to start talking about the movie now. You know,
Okay, I have an impossible challenge for this movie.
What?
Take a shot every time they say, what was the word, like, oh my god, why did I close the tab? Gizzard.
Are you trying to kill people, Lily?
Yeah, it's actually impossible. Don't do this, you might die.
Yeah. So the first thing I was gonna say was, like, I forgot how beautiful this movie was. Like, I swear to God, the animation is just fucking incredible, especially when you consider this is 2010.
Oh yeah, this does not look like a 2010 movie.
No, like this.
It does not. It just
This
doesn't.
looks like it could have released in like 2018, 2019.
This looks like they trained owls to act out in movies. Okay, maybe not that far, but like, if you told me that, I was like, damn, how science has gone so far.
Yeah, but this is all animation, which is crazy. I don't know.
Like, this is CGI,
well,
right?
It's computer animation, which is kind of somewhere in the gray area.
Like, we call, everyone says, oh, the live action Lion King, but that wasn't live action.
Yeah, but it's.
So would that be in the same boat?
I'm not sure that it would, because the live action, the Lion King remake isn't really animation either. And this movie is definitely animated.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah,
So, yeah, I guess that's my answer.
But yeah, I had forgotten how beautiful this movie was, and it's primarily because I watched it one time in theaters 13 years ago, and ever since then I had only ever seen it on DVD. And I've ranted about hating DVDs a number of times on this podcast. And I don't know if I should do it here again, but yeah, it.
I'll just give the short of it. 480p. Can't store a lot of stuff on it. Outdated.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything?
Primarily the 480p thing. Like, things just are not going to look as beautiful at 480p as they otherwise would.
Yeah. I mean, I never worried about the quality, but that's just a fact.
Yeah. So, you know, another interesting thing I found out about this movie is it's directed by Zack Snyder, who also directed Man of Steel and did the recut of Justice League that came out a couple of years ago. Neither of which I've seen.
Were they good?
I have no idea.
Or perceived as good?
Man of Steel, from what I've heard, is not that great, but I also hear that from the perspective of comic book fans.
So you haven't had a me opinion.
Yeah. But then you have Zack Snyder's version of Justice League, which from what I understand was actually better than the original, but still not very good.
Huh. At least he beat the original, so that's good.
But yeah, that was something I felt like, was worth pointing out. It was like, oh, Zack Snyder, and the I don't know. I actually didn't remember who made this movie before rewatching it for this, and it turns out it was Warner Brothers. I knew it wasn't Disney, and I knew it wasn't DreamWorks, but beyond that, I wasn't sure who it could be, because, like, Sony didn't seem likely either.
No, yeah, I don't know, I could tell that this movie just wasn't a part of, one of the big players of animation.
I mean, I would still consider Warner Brothers to be pretty big, but they're known for being a variety type of company.
Yeah. This wasn't, an animation studio, that's known for only doing animation, you know? This was, I mean, I guess the only reason I thought that was because I had not heard of this movie, and I know almost all of the movies and at least series of the biggest animation companies.
Yeah, for sure, I knew this wasn't Disney. I for sure knew this wasn't DreamWorks. Was fairly confident it wasn't Sony. For sure knew this wasn't Fox, because Fox's animation stuff is almost always through Blue Sky. I definitely knew it wasn't Illumination.
Yeah, because it was good.
Yeah. And then, Laika was kind of out of the question, too. They've made, 6 movies?
And I am 10% confident that this was not a stop-motion animation.
This definitely wasn't stop-motion. But yeah,
I don't know, they just got real birds and it just took a bunch of pictures of them.
Yeah. But this movie is a book-to-movie adaptation, or more accurately, books, plural, to movie adaptation, which is almost never a good sign. I think the only movie to do multiple books into one movie and have it work amazingly was the Spiderwick Chronicles. But even that one chose not to be accurate to the source material, which was fine because they were children's books. And you could argue these are children's books too. I read them in middle school. In fact, I read the second one first in 5th grade. And I...
Wait, why did you read the second one
Because
first?
my 5th grade teacher was a fucking idiot. And she decided, no, the only AR books you are allowed to read are from this list that I provide. And this book was on it. But the first one was not. So yeah, the I believe the series is called The Owls of Ga'Hoole. Um, and the first three books are called The Capture, The Journey, and The Rescue. And they're all by Catherine Lasky. There are actually 16 books in this series, but this movie is only an adaptation of the first three, and the first three are the only ones I ever read. But, like, what I can't...
That's a lot of books, by the
Sorry,
way.
what?
That's a lot of books, by the way.
And also, I will say this, like, it should probably say something that, like, because, like, I went back and read the first book, reread the second one, and then read the third one after having had to read the second one because it was one of my only options available at the time. Like, it should say something that I did go back and get all of these read. But I never got around to the others, mainly because they were never accessible to me.
I imagine you can't just, like, go pick them up from your library now.
That, like, for starters, my library definitely doesn't have them. But then, like, when it comes to requests, they're not gonna grab a book that, like, they're not just gonna grab a book that is part of a series of 16 books. Like, they're not just gonna do that unless they already have a decent chunk of the other books in the series.
But that would just be a catch-22.
Yeah. So it's like, no, it's they're not doing it. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I remember going to see this in theaters. I remember later when it came out on DVD, my dad got me and my sister this movie on DVD. I probably still have the DVD lying around somewhere, but I'm not gonna fucking watch it on there.
I mean, where else are you gonna watch it?
I mean, I watched it on YouTube today.
But how long will that be an option?
For as long as it's an option. But realistically, I don't know when the next time I'll watch this movie is.
Tomorrow.
I'm not watching it tomorrow. In fact, I'm gonna be too busy watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like the story of this movie was overall pretty good. And yeah, there are elements of the third book that are just flat out not in the third movie, including a very big twist in the third book that's just not here. But because they had to cut so much out to fit it into the time of a movie, I feel like it makes sense that they didn't go 100% with what the third book was, because I don't feel like they would have had time to be able to do stuff like that.
Yeah, that would make sense. And for the movie's credit, I do like what they did in the final act.
Yeah, it's enjoyable to watch.
I mean, ever since the beginning, I just really wanted, like, the protagonist to have a final face down with his brother. I did not know it would end up like that, though.
With his brother just...
So, like, did he die, or...?
I don't know. I never read past the third book.
So he's dead, question mark.
Yeah, possibly. But yeah, this book series, one thing I will say about it, like, it definitely gives you like, quite a bit of knowledge about the different species of owls that there are, but I have since forgotten literally the names of all of them except for Tyto alba, which is what Soren is. And yes, they do actually have faces that are shaped like hearts.
Oh, that's cute.
It's very interesting to me.
Yeah, and they actually do really like his brother was not on screen for that long, but they showcase his descent into madness perfectly.
Yeah. The things that they don't showcase very well are just some of the things that the books simply had more time with, like who the character who helps Soren and Gylfi escape, the relationships between Soren, Gylfi, Digger, and Twilight. Um, Hell, even the whole thing with Mrs. P, it doesn't feel as impactful because, like, there's almost a whole book and a half between when Soren is split away from Mrs. P and when he reunites with her. Um, and, like,
It's just so weird, like how much time has
yeah, and then
progressed.
there's like also like when we get to the Great Tree, which by the way looks fucking amazing. Great Tree looks so much better than I even imagined it would look. I going into this movie, I was pessimistic about how the Great Tree was going to look because it is supposed to be beautiful, and they nailed it.
I mean, it was very beautiful, but what I liked about the Great Tree the most was the amount of things that were happening. You know, owls were everywhere, doing things, getting things. It was very
Yeah, and
busy.
the books take a fair amount of time going deep into that stuff. You learn a lot more about the Chaws, which they barely touched on. You see a lot more training. You get to know the character of Easelrib a bit more before finding out that he is actually Lies of Keel. Whereas in the movie, it's like you figure it out maybe 20 minutes after you meet him.
I mean, in this movie, 20 minutes is like a year.
Yeah, it's like
Okay,
and the
it's a
journey
month, but
even the journey to
more or
get
less.
to the Great Tree feels a lot shorter because it is like they had to condense everything. Five scenes of like branching training gets changed into one. Like
I'll be honest, like I don't care about the condensing, except for like okay around the beginning, but also getting to the Great Tree because it really just seems like the Great Tree, a myth, the legend. Oh, and now we're here.
yeah, it's like the getting to the Great Tree thing is the entire second book. Like that
Yeah,
that's
it was not that impactful, but it could have been done better. That I feel like this is the movie's catchphrase. Could have been done better, but it was still pretty alright.
yeah, like I think book 2 ends on Eglantine arriving at the tree and then dropping like the information that she drops, and like that's like a cliffhanger ending for the second book. I want to say that that's the case.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is just a. I'll be honest, I think they just did an impossible task and they did it somewhat okay.
Yeah, I would say this movie and the Spiderwick Chronicles are two movies that do a fairly decent job at condensing multiple books into one movie, even if I don't think it should have been done that way. Um, I don't know. It kind of feels like the people making this movie actually cared about the source material, whereas the studio itself didn't.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Could,
And it should not have been. At the very least, if you're gonna go with movies, have like a movie for each book, like normal people do it.
I think
But
I think this would have been better as a TV series.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, at the very least, you could at least done that.
I feel like one movie for each book would have felt really weird. Um, for this,
Hmm.
um, it, it 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 would feel like the first book at least would end at a very very weird place.
Oh. Well, that's the book's fault.
Yeah, but then you have like, uh, I haven't talked much about the Spiderwick Chronicles because I'm really hoping we cover it at some point. But like, I can't
Hmm.
imagine how you could possibly turn the Spiderwick Chronicles into 5 movies. I do not think there's enough of those books there to make one movie out of each. But then again, the movie doesn't really
Hmm.
have anything of the fourth book in it at all. So there is that.
And no one cared about the fourth book, I think.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
regardless, yeah, I felt like this was a decent enough adaptation, and I'm kind of surprised by that. I've definitely seen better adaptations. I would probably even say, well, actually, I'm not sure I would say The Fifth Wave is better. Shit,
I've seen worse.
shit, I didn't announce the next episodes at the beginning of the
Oh,
podcast.
crap.
Guess I'll do that at the end.
I love how. Oh, yeah, speaking about the fifth wave. Nah.
But yeah,
But,
I don't know. Like,
I mean, it's just World with I actually do love just the World with Owls, and there's just a snake for some
yeah,
reason.
which, like, I was kind of a little bit annoyed when you had DM'd me and said she was a worm.
I don't remember
Yeah, you
that.
were like, yeah, and there's a worm for some reason. And I'm just like, well, okay then.
Um,
But yeah, I don't know, whatever. I feel like just as a movie
hmm.
standing on its own, it's average. Um, it's average, but I want to elevate it above average for 2 reasons. One, because of how well they smushed 3 movies. I mean, sorry, smushed 3 books into one movie, and how gorgeous the animation is. Like those 2 things.
Yeah, I will give the animation credit for, at the very least, being able to accomplish this in, what,
Yeah,
2010?
I don't know. Like I don't even think.
But the critics didn't.
Yeah, I don't even think Tangled looked this good in terms of animation quality. And you know how much I love that movie. I gave that movie a 10.
Yeah, I mean, you love that movie so much, you're bringing it up now.
Yes. But I don't know. Like, the story of this movie doesn't carry it much farther than average.
Oh, yeah, and I don't think I've mentioned it a lot, but the pacing in this movie definitely does suffer a
Yeah,
bit.
it's going to suffer from being 3 books smushed into one thing.
And honestly, I feel like it's a very apparent in the beginning.
I want to also say
Like,
I'm remembering now
hmm,
that the flex, like the whole idea of the little metal flex thing, might not have been in the
hmm.
book.
Wait,
Yeah,
really?
I think those might have been a completely film original thing.
Also, I just love how, like, the bird, like, one of the birds just had, like, a fake eye. That made it look really cool.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, but I do love how the owls look overall.
So, what was their plan anyway? Was like, let's kidnap some birds and make them fight in our
Yep,
wars.
like that's it. Because
God, why was the brother even like? Like, was he mind control indoctrinated? Or was he just always consumed by the darkness?
You know, I think it's meant to be unclear, but something interesting that they also left out of this movie
Hmm.
was that when Eglantine showed up at um, at the Great Tree, I'm pretty sure she was brainwashed too, and she was spouting some of the like "We are Taitos" nonsense.
Oh, right. And there's another thing about this movie I forgot. How do they make sleeping at night a plot point, or not sleeping at night a plot point?
I think it's something from the books about like falling asleep at night making them go crazy or something, which I don't know if that has any biological basis at all, but it's definitely from the book.
Oh, I very much doubt it.
They also specify that it's like in the desert when they're tired already. I don't know. Maybe there is something to it. Never researched it further.
Hmm.
But another thing they left out was that at the camp or whatever, wherever the pure ones are, whatever you want to call it, one of the things they would do is force all of the owl slaves or whatever to repeat their own name over and over, so
Hmm.
that it basically becomes meaningless to them.
That's just horrible.
Yeah.
Wow. Also, okay, as much as I hate like the bad birds or whatever, that opening where they're just like, "Oh, how's my evil stare?" Oh yeah, that's pretty good.
That shit was funny.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Fucking loved that. And I'm pretty sure Hugo Weaving plays a character in this movie, but I'm not sure who he plays. We saw him in
Hmm.
Captain America the First Avenger. He played Red Skull, and then somebody else played him in Infinity War.
Right. Is this what he wanted to do with his acting career? So playing Red Skull,
I guess.
playing a fucking
Yeah.
owl.
I mean, imagine not playing
I
an
mean,
owl. Couldn't be me.
I mean that's true. I mean, I'll be honest. He has me beat. Not only he acts, he also voices owls, and that's something I could never do in 1,000 years.
I think you could do it in 1,000 years.
Okay, yeah, probably. Even actually, no, I don't think so. Because when's the next time an owl movie is gonna be released?
Tomorrow.
Damn, just like Kingdom Hearts Missing Link. Why did I make a joke so obscure? Oh well.
Yeah, whatever. Okay, so how much time are we into this episode now? All
33.
right. Yeah, so I think I think we can go ahead to and get into the critic ratings. Can I words?
Okay. No, you cannot English properly.
Do
So,
you English?
that's not the right link. That's not the right tab. And it's here. Cool. I've been waiting to get in the critic ratings because IMDb gives it a 6.9 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 52%.
That's too low.
Common Sense Media gives it a 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5 ain't bad. That's
What?
basically 80.
The fuck, Common Sense Media? Why are you even here? Anyway, and 65% of Google users like this movie.
65?
Correct.
I don't know. I feel like that's pretty damn low.
For Google users? I mean, just in general, but for Google users?
Yeah. Okay, so throughout, if I were just basing this on the story alone, it would get a 7.0. But because of how well it works as a movie when they smushed everything down, and because of how beautiful the animation is, I have to bump it up to a 7.4.
That's some very generous bumping, if you ask me. However, in the same regards to what Avory just said, 7.6.
Kind of surprised you rated it higher. But anyway, if you've jumped to the end of the episode to hear what's coming next, which I don't know if anyone is even going to be listening to this, you can join us tomorrow for Avengers Infinity. Not tomorrow, later this week for Avengers Infinity War, and next week for The Fifth Wave and Blade Runner. But with all that being said, I've been Avery, that's been Lily, and we will be seeing you.